Woman who was part of Kennedy's motorcade the day he was assassinated.
They were masters of deception during World War II, the Ghost Army.
Pictures can convey stories more powerfully than words, capturing moments that leave a lasting impression. Some photos, like those of an unknown woman or a shadowy family gathering, have left people wondering for decades. What could be hidden in the shadows of the eerie 1903 photograph, intense enough to send a shiver down your spine? Join us as we explore these captivating images, each potentially holding more than meets the eye. The portraits of the unknown. Let's start with the Babushka Lady, a photo of an older woman wearing a headscarf taken during President Kennedy's assassination on November 22, 1963, in Dallas. Amidst the chaos, she appeared calm, possibly filming the event. Despite FBI efforts to identify her and locate any footage, her identity and actions remain unknown, sparking endless speculation about whether she was a spy or just an onlooker. Next, in August 1948, a distressing photo titled "Mother with 4 Children for Sale" shows a woman named Lucille and her 4 children with a sign indicating they were for sale. Facing eviction in Chicago, Lucille and her jobless husband, Ray, hoped selling their children would offer them a better future. The photo sparked national outrage and offers of assistance. However, within 2 years, the children were separated from their parents. The youngest, David, was adopted and later joined the military, while Renee and Milton were sold for $2, enduring harsh conditions and forced labor on a farm. There's another photo shrouded in mystery known as the Black Knight satellite. It started when the famous inventor Nikola Tesla reported hearing strange radio signals in 1899, which he thought might be from outer space. This led to theories about an alien satellite called the Black Knight, orbiting Earth. Some believe it's an extraterrestrial object monitoring us, sparking curiosity about our place in the universe and the possibility of other intelligent life. Years later, things got even more intriguing. UFO researcher Donald Kehoe said the U.S. Air Force found 2 unidentified satellites orbiting Earth. This was a big deal, because no country had the technology to put satellites in space back then. This claim led to more sightings and reports. In 1960, the U.S. Navy's radar found a dark, tumbling object in a polar orbit. The Department of Defense said it was just space debris from an Air Force project. But not everyone believed this explanation, and the legend of the Black Knight grew. But this wasn't the worst part. In 1998, during the STS-88 mission to build the International Space Station, a photo was taken of a strange, dark object in space. This photo reignited the debate. Some people thought it was the Black Knight, a supposed alien satellite watching Earth since the early 1900s. NASA said it was just a lost thermal blanket from a spacewalk, but many people still believed it was something more mysterious. Now let's switch to a different story, the skunk ape. This creature is said to live in the Florida wilderness and is known for its terrible smell, like a mix of skunk and wet dog. It's also described as big, hairy, and walking on 2 legs. Stories about the skunk ape have been around since the early 1900s. One early report told of a creature that jumped onto a car and then disappeared into the swamp. In 1957, another story mentioned a huge, stinking ape that disrupted a hunting camp in the Everglades. The skunk ape became even more famous in the late 1990s and early 2000s. David Shealy, who calls himself a skunk ape researcher, says he saw one as a child. This sighting inspired him to prove its existence. In 2000, Shealy filmed what he claimed was the skunk ape. The video showed a large, fast-moving, hairy figure in the swamps. Despite doubts from scientists, Shealy kept searching, convinced the creature is real. Let's talk about the 2 skeletons archaeologists discovered at the Tepe Hassanlou site in Iran, known as the Hassanlou Lovers, which are about 2,800 years old. The skeletons were found embracing each other, possibly sharing their final moments as their city burned. Initially believed to be a man and a woman, recent studies suggest they might both be men. This has sparked various theories about their relationship, whether they were lovers, relatives, or friends caught in a tragedy, leading to ongoing debates and insights into the social norms of their era. But the mystery doesn't end there. In the Hin Valley of central Norway, people have seen strange, glowing orbs for years. These orbs come in different colors: white, yellow, red, blue, and green, and can be seen both day and night. Sometimes they just float in one place, but other times they move quickly across the sky. Everyone is trying to figure out what these lights are, why they show up, and how they form, but no one has clear answers yet. In 2007, a man in Fresno, California, was curious about why his dogs barked every night. He set up a security camera to find out. What he saw was astonishing: two white, pants-shaped creatures gliding across his yard. These beings, later called the Fresno Nightcrawlers, have very long legs and small upper bodies, looking like walking pants. Their smooth movements make them seem eerie and otherworldly. They are usually white or light gray in videos, adding to their ghostly look. Even though there have been many sightings, it's still unclear if the Fresno Nightcrawlers are real creatures or just hoaxes. The Solway Firth Spaceman photo has also stirred up a lot of interest. Jim Templeton, a firefighter from Carlisle, England, took the photo on May 23, 1964. He was taking pictures of his 5-year-old daughter, Elizabeth, during a family outing. In one of the photos, there appears to be an astronaut standing behind his daughter, even though no one else was there when he took it. The photo was widely published and analyzed by experts, including Kodak. Some think the figure might be an alien or a time traveler. However, many now believe it was simply his wife, captured in a way that made her look like an astronaut. The shadows of history. But this wasn't the only strange photo. Another striking picture shows a huge pile of bison skulls outside the Michigan Carbon Works in River Rouge, Michigan, around 1892. Bison were heavily hunted in America, especially in the North. At one time, there were between 30 to 60 million bison. By the late 1800s, their numbers dropped to just a few hundred. This photo shows the harsh reality of their near extinction. The dramatic decline led to early conservation efforts by private citizens and later the U.S. government. These efforts have helped the bison population recover. Today, there are about 500,000 bison, with around 30,000 living in protected areas in nature. The Cooper family claims their eerie photograph, known as the falling body photo, hasn't been edited. At first, it looks like a happy family picture, but if you look closer, you'll see a shadowy figure that seems to be falling from the roof on the left side of the picture. This strange detail has led to many different ideas, from ghosts to photo tricks. Some people think it might be an example of double exposure, where two images blend into one. But the true story behind the falling figure still confuses people today. In the 19th century, after Napoleon's trip to Egypt, Europeans became fascinated with Egyptian culture, a trend called Egyptomania. Mummies were particularly popular and were sold by street vendors to wealthy European and American tourists. These mummies were often showcased at parties where they were unwrapped for entertainment. Some were even ground into powder and sold as a medicinal cure. This trade lasted until the late 19th century when Egypt banned the export of mummies and other ancient items. This wasn't the end of strange historical stories. During Prohibition in the U.S. from 1920 to 1933, making and selling alcohol was illegal. Moonshiners, to hide their tracks from the police, invented cow shoes. These wooden blocks shaped like cow hooves were attached to shoes, leaving cow prints instead of human footprints, thus tricking law enforcement and keeping their operations hidden. In December 1964, the Hook Island sea monster was reportedly seen off the coast of Queensland, Australia. This creature was said to be up to 80 feet long with a smooth, dark body. The Le Serec family took a photo of what they claimed was this huge creature, causing a lot of interest and debate. Despite this photo, no other evidence has been found, and the existence of the Hook Island sea monster is still argued about by fans and skeptics. Without more proof, what the family saw that day remains a mystery, keeping people curious and guessing. During World War II, there was a unique and lesser-known unit called the Ghost Army, officially known as the 23rd Headquarters Special Troops. Formed in 1944, this group of about 100 men was special, not just for their military skills. It included artists, designers, and engineers with a unique mission: to fool the enemy. The Ghost Army used fake tanks, radio messages, and sound effects to trick German forces about the location and strength of Allied troops. This deception was vital in operations like D-Day. By setting up a dummy army in southeast England with rubber tanks and false radio signals, they misled the Germans into believing the main invasion would be at Pas de Calais, not Normandy, aiding the success of the actual invasion. Now let's talk about another strange historical event, the Cadaver Senate, which happened in the 9th century. Picture this: a deceased pope, Pope Formosus, was dug up, dressed in papal robes, and placed on a throne to be put on trial for things he did while he was alive. This happened in January 897 AD, a very chaotic time for the Catholic Church. Pope Stephen VI, who organized this bizarre trial, had a deep grudge against Formosus. Even though Formosus had been dead for several months, Stephen VI was so angry that he went to the extent of putting him on trial after death. But this wasn't the worst part. This trial wasn't just a simple court case. It was a dramatic and controversial event that highlighted the intense political and clerical conflicts of the time. It was a spectacle that sparked debates and discussions echoing through the history of the Catholic Church. The Cadaver Senate is one of the most surreal and grotesque episodes in church history, showing how far power struggles and vendettas can go in religious and political hierarchies. Pope Stephen VI had a strong grudge against his predecessor, Pope Formosus. He believed Formosus had broken many church laws and lied under oath. Determined to punish Formosus even after his death, Stephen VI planned a shocking trial. He had Formosus's decaying body dug up, dressed in papal clothes, and placed on a throne in the Basilica of St. John Lateran in Rome. A deacon was chosen to defend the dead pope, but the trial was more like a theater show than a real court case. During the Cadaver Senate, Pope Stephen VI was very upset with the late Pope Formosus. He accused Formosus of wrongly taking the role of pope. Formosus was posthumously found guilty, stripped of his papal robes, and his blessing fingers were cut off. Initially buried in a common grave, his body was later thrown into the Tiber River. Legend says the body washed ashore and began performing miracles, sparking public fury against Stephen VI. This outrage led to Stephen VI being imprisoned and later dying, highlighting a dark time in church history: inventive extremes. During World War II, the U.S. military tried unconventional methods with Project Pigeon. Led by famous psychologist B.F. Skinner, the project aimed to use pigeons to guide bombs. Skinner knew pigeons had great vision and smarts, so he thought they could accurately direct missiles to their targets. His idea was to have pigeons control the missile's path by pecking at target images shown on screens inside a special nose cone. Each cone had 3 pigeons in separate compartments, working together to keep the missile on course. Skinner trained the pigeons using his operant conditioning method, rewarding them with hemp seeds for pecking at the right images. Over time, the pigeons learned that pecking at the target image meant getting a treat, making them surprisingly good at guiding missiles. To make sure the system was accurate and reliable, Skinner used 3 pigeons per missile. If one bird made a mistake, the others could correct it. This episode in military history shows how far people will go in times of need, mixing scientific curiosity with the urgent demands of war. A stranger event was the use of dynamite on a beached whale in Florence, Oregon. On November 9, 1970, a 45-foot, 8-ton sperm whale washed ashore. It quickly became a big problem because of its huge size and terrible smell. The Oregon State Highway Division, working with Navy explosives experts, decided on a very unusual solution, using dynamite to get rid of the whale. George Thornton, an assistant district highway engineer, led the plan. They used half a ton of dynamite, hoping it would blow the whale into small pieces that birds and other scavengers could eat. But things didn't go as planned. When the dynamite exploded, it sent sand, blubber, and debris flying 100 feet into the air. Instead of small pieces, large chunks of whale blubber rained down, and one piece even crushed a parked car. The crowd, amazed at first, quickly ran for cover as whale pieces fell from the sky. Luckily, no one was hurt, but the aftermath was a gruesome mess, a scene so shocking it's something most would rather not see firsthand. Ernest Hemingway, the famous American author, was also known for his love of cats, especially those with extra toes, called polydactyl cats. His bond with these cats began in the 1930s when he got a 6-toed cat named Snow White from a ship's captain. This doesn't affect their health and adds to their charm. Today, Hemingway's home in Key West, now a museum, is home to about 40 to 50 cats, many of whom are descendants of Snow White. About half of these cats have the polydactyl trait, continuing Hemingway's original cat's legacy. These cats roam freely around the property, which serves as both a tribute to Hemingway's writing and a haven for cat lovers. The museum staff takes great care of these cats, ensuring they get regular checkups, vaccinations, and medical care. There's even a cemetery on the property for the Hemingway cats, where generations of these special cats are buried. Each cat is given a name, often after famous people, a tradition that Hemingway started himself. However, this wasn't the only strange invention. During the time between the world wars, European parents were very scared of chemical warfare, a fear that lingered from World War I. To protect their children from possible chemical attacks, they developed gas-resistant baby strollers. These strollers were like mobile gas chambers, with a window for the baby to look through and a hand pump to supply clean air. The strollers were sealed to protect the babies from toxic gases while making sure they could breathe safely. However, these strollers looked very grim, often compared to small coffins on wheels. They showed just how desperate and fearful people were during those times, trying to protect their most vulnerable from the horrors of war. In the 1800s, photography made big strides, especially with the invention of heliography, which took 8 hours to capture just one picture. Over the next century, photography got much better, but nothing was as amazing as a photo taken in the early 1900s of the Coal Guard Infantry Regiment in Warsaw. This photo, only about 42 by 96 cm in size, captured the faces of around 1,200 men in incredible detail. The clarity and depth of this small piece of film are still impressive today. The photographer, George R. Lawrence, used new techniques that allowed for such precise and large-scale images. His work not only showed what early 20th century photography could do, but also set a new bar for photographers everywhere. It inspired others to try new methods and capture more detailed and expansive photos. Yet, how Lawrence managed this with the technology of his time still fascinates photographers and historians. People still talk about his methods and what drove him to push the limits of photography. But this wasn't the only amazing photo moment. On June 5, 1989, during the pro-democracy protests in Tiananmen Square, China, another powerful image was captured. Amid the protests against corruption and inflation, one man stood out. Known only as Tank Man, he became a symbol of bravery and resistance. He even climbed onto the first tank to talk to the crew, showing incredible courage. When the tank tried to move around him, Tank Man kept blocking its path, creating a strong image of one person standing up to power. The standoff lasted several minutes, until 2 people led Tank Man away. His identity is unknown. Even though the Chinese government tried to hide the event, images of Tank Man spread around the world. This image of one man standing against tanks has become a global symbol, representing the fight for democracy and the broader struggle for freedom and justice. Tank Man's bravery continues to inspire people, showing how one person can make a big difference against huge challenges. What if the unknown figures and inexplicable events captured in these photos are hints of untold stories just waiting to be uncovered? If you enjoyed exploring these intriguing snapshots of history, don't forget to like and subscribe for more.